Breaking tonight, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has issued a direct and public appeal to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Zelensky proposes a face-to-face meeting, outlined in an open letter released earlier today. This significant diplomatic move comes amidst escalating tensions and continued conflict in various regions of Ukraine. The proposal underscores a persistent effort by Kyiv to find a path to de-escalation through direct dialogue at the highest level. Analysts suggest this is a strategic push to bypass diplomatic stalemates. The international community is closely watching for Moscow's official response to this urgent invitation. The open letter, penned by President Zelensky, was delivered through diplomatic channels and simultaneously published on the Ukrainian presidential website. Sources indicate the letter emphasizes the critical need for a direct dialogue to address the core issues fueling the conflict. It reportedly calls for an immediate ceasefire and the initiation of comprehensive negotiations. The letter's tone is described as urgent and resolute, highlighting the human cost of the ongoing hostilities. It is a clear statement from Kyiv, asserting the necessity for leaders to directly confront the crisis. The specific details of the proposed agenda remain broad, focusing on peace and security. President Zelensky's plea for dialogue stems from a deeply held belief in direct communications' power to resolve complex disputes. In his public statements accompanying the letter, he stressed that traditional diplomatic channels have proved insufficient given the current intensity of the conflict. Kyiv believes that only a direct meeting between the two presidents can break the impasse and foster genuine progress towards peace. The Ukrainian administration asserts that bypassing intermediaries and engaging directly is the most effective way to confront the humanitarian crisis and political deadlock. This approach signifies a potential shift in Ukraine's diplomatic strategy. While the open letter does not specify a single location, President Zelensky's administration has previously suggested several potential neutral venues. These include Istanbul, Turkey, known for its past mediation efforts, Geneva, Switzerland, a hub for international diplomacy, and even the United Nations headquarters in New York. The emphasis is on a location that ensures neutrality and security for both leaders, facilitating an environment conducive to serious discussions. The choice of venue is crucial, signaling a commitment to impartiality and creating a space where substantive talks can potentially yield results. No specific date has been set, awaiting Moscow's response. The timing of Zelensky's letter underscores the profound urgency felt in Kyiv. Reports indicate an intensification of hostilities in eastern and southern Ukraine, with increased shelling and ongoing military offensives. The humanitarian situation remains dire, with millions displaced and critical infrastructure damaged. This backdrop of escalating conflict fuels the Ukrainian president's drive for a direct engagement, hoping to halt further destruction and loss of life. The call for talks is not a sign of weakness, but rather a desperate attempt to leverage diplomacy in the face of relentless military pressure. The world watches, hoping for a breakthrough. Moscow's initial reaction to Zelensky's proposal has been cautious, and largely echoes previous statements. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov acknowledged receipt of the letter but reiterated Russia's long-standing position: any talks must address Russia's security concerns and Ukraine's neutral status. President Putin has previously expressed reluctance to meet Zelensky directly, preferring negotiations with lower-level officials or through intermediaries. This suggests a potential hurdle, as Russia may attempt to set preconditions or deflect the direct invitation. The international community is anticipating a more formal and detailed response from the Kremlin in the coming days, which will shape the immediate diplomatic landscape. Zelensky's open letter is part of a broader, sustained diplomatic push by Kyiv to keep the channels of communication open, despite the brutal realities on the ground. Ukrainian officials have consistently called for direct engagement, believing that a leader-to-leader meeting holds the greatest potential for a significant breakthrough. This strategy aims to rally international support for direct dialogue, pressuring Moscow to engage meaningfully. Ukraine is leveraging its global partnerships to emphasize the necessity of a diplomatic solution, even while its forces continue to defend against aggression. This move reinforces Ukraine's commitment to peace through negotiation. International reactions to Zelensky's proposal have been largely supportive, with many global leaders welcoming the call for direct dialogue. The United Nations Secretary-General has consistently urged for diplomatic solutions, and this initiative aligns with that stance. European Union leaders and U.S. officials have reiterated their support for any genuine efforts to de-escalate the conflict and promote peace. While acknowledging the complexities, they emphasize that direct communication between the two leaders is paramount. This international backing could exert further pressure on Moscow to seriously consider Zelensky's invitation, highlighting the global desire for a peaceful resolution. The world hopes for progress. Past attempts at high-level talks between Ukraine and Russia have yielded mixed results, often ending in stalemates. The Minsk agreements, signed in 2014 and 2015, aimed to resolve the conflict in eastern Ukraine but largely failed to achieve lasting peace. Various Normandy format meetings involving Ukraine, Russia, Germany, and France also struggled to implement their mandates. These historical precedents highlight the deep trust deficit and entrenched positions of both sides. Zelensky's current proposal for direct talks is an attempt to bypass these previously unsuccessful formats, seeking a fresh approach that addresses the current, broader conflict. It represents a pivot from past diplomatic failures. If a meeting proceeds, key discussion points on Zelensky's agenda would likely include an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire, the establishment of safe humanitarian corridors, and the exchange of prisoners of war. Furthermore, Kyiv would prioritize discussions on Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, seeking guarantees for its future security. These foundational issues are non-negotiable for Ukraine. The potential for a framework for long-term peace and security in the region would also be on the table. Ukraine aims to ensure any agreement addresses the root causes of the conflict and secures its nation's future. The stakes are incredibly high for all involved. Despite the diplomatic push, significant challenges remain for a face-to-face meeting between Zelensky and Putin. The profound lack of trust between the two leaders, exacerbated by the ongoing conflict, represents a major hurdle. Differing objectives and non-negotiable demands from both sides could quickly lead to an impasse. Furthermore, the security arrangements for such a high-stakes meeting would be complex, requiring meticulous planning and mutual agreement. Overcoming the deep-seated animosity and finding common ground will require immense diplomatic skill and a genuine commitment to compromise from both parties. The path to direct talks is fraught with obstacles. Within Ukraine, public opinion regarding direct talks with Putin is complex and varied. While many Ukrainians yearn for peace, there is also widespread skepticism about Russia's sincerity and a strong desire to avoid concessions that compromise national sovereignty. President Zelensky must navigate these domestic sentiments carefully. Any move towards negotiation will be scrutinized by a populace that has endured immense suffering and fiercely resisted aggression. Maintaining public trust while pursuing diplomatic solutions is a delicate balancing act for the Ukrainian leadership. The support of the Ukrainian people remains crucial for any peace initiative to succeed. On the Russian side, the Kremlin's long-standing demands for any peace settlement include Ukraine's demilitarization and denazification, as well as recognition of annexed territories. These conditions are largely non-starters for Kyiv and pose significant obstacles to any meaningful dialogue. President Putin has consistently stated that Russia's security concerns must be met. These demands reflect a deep-rooted ideological and strategic divergence between the two nations, making compromise exceptionally difficult. Observers note that without a shift in Moscow's maximalist positions, achieving a breakthrough in direct talks will remain highly improbable. The gap in expectations is vast. Should a face-to-face meeting materialize, the role of potential mediators could become crucial. Turkey has actively offered its services, facilitating previous rounds of talks and hosting discussions. Other nations, such as Israel and Switzerland, have also been mentioned as potential neutral facilitators. The presence of a trusted third party could help bridge the communication gap, build confidence, and ensure adherence to agreed-upon frameworks. A mediator could also help define the agenda and manage expectations, preventing early collapse of the talks. However, both Kyiv and Moscow would need to agree on any proposed mediator, adding another layer of complexity. The protracted conflict and diplomatic standoff carry immense economic costs for both Ukraine and Russia, as well as the global economy. Ukraine's infrastructure has sustained billions of dollars in damage, and its economy has contracted dramatically. Russia faces extensive international sanctions, impacting its financial system, technology access, and energy sector. Globally, commodity prices remain volatile, and supply chains are disrupted. A successful direct negotiation could pave the way for economic recovery and stability. The economic imperative for peace is undeniable, pushing both sides, and the international community, to seek a resolution to the ongoing crisis. President Zelensky's proposal is not an isolated incident. It reflects a pattern of persistent calls for direct engagement with President Putin since the early days of the full-scale invasion. Throughout the conflict, Zelensky has repeatedly emphasized the importance of high-level dialogue to address humanitarian issues, secure ceasefires, and ultimately achieve a lasting peace. His consistent message highlights a fundamental belief that direct leader-to-leader communication is indispensable for navigating such a profound crisis. This latest open letter reiterates that unwavering commitment to exhausting all diplomatic avenues, even in the face of ongoing military challenges and diplomatic setbacks. It is a testament to his resolve. As President Zelensky's open letter makes headlines, the world now awaits a definitive response from the Kremlin. The coming days will be critical in determining whether this latest diplomatic initiative can open a new, albeit difficult, pathway to peace. Analysts are divided on the likelihood of Putin accepting a direct, unconditional meeting. Some believe the pressure from international bodies and the ongoing conflict's toll might prompt a shift in Moscow's stance. Others foresee continued resistance or attempts to impose preconditions. Regardless, Zelensky's move has refocused global attention on the urgent need for a diplomatic resolution. The ball is now in Moscow's court. In conclusion, President Zelensky's open letter to President Putin marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing conflict. It represents a bold and urgent attempt to reignite direct dialogue at the highest level, aiming to break the cycle of violence and suffering. While the challenges are immense and the path uncertain, the call for face-to-face talks offers a glimmer of hope for a diplomatic breakthrough. The international community, weary of the conflict's devastating impact, remains hopeful that both leaders will seize this opportunity to engage meaningfully. The quest for peace continues, with the eyes of the world fixed on the diplomatic chessboard. We will keep you updated.